Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. And this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And this time around, I want to go back to 1993. Yes, those grim and gritty and ridiculously violent sometimes days of the 90s. And this book is Battle Axis #1 from Intrepid Comics. And this book is created, written, and drawn by, see if I get this name right, Michael Vukelic. Michael Vukelic. I hope I got that right. And this book, it's almost fits in with what some people are now referring to as Power Comics, or as the cartoonist kayfabe boys refer to as Outlaw Comics. So it kind of fits in with that, except those are generally all black and white, whereas this is, as you can see here, in full color. And before I get into this, I want to tell you that I have to compliment this guy regarding the production quality, the overall production quality of the finished piece. It's some nice printing. I mean, this was an expensive little project here. The quality of the printing and higher quality, more expensive paper, and then of course to print this type, the coloring on this scale here. But I'll get into that as I talk a little bit more about it. Now, I in my research, I couldn't find anything about Intrepid Comics from this period, largely because there is a current company by the name of Intrepid Comics, which has nothing to do with this book and this publisher, because this is basically a one-man show. And I couldn't find anything about this Michael Vukelic, about this creator. There is a self-help lecturer. It's the only way I can kind of describe him by that name, who is the biggest thing I can find under this name. And there is a fine artist by the name of Mikhail Vukelic from someplace else. And the other bigger name that comes up is the same name, with some guy writing about horse racing. And there are about 24 other Michael Vukelics in there. And I have no way of figuring out who this one is, if any of them. And so all of that is a mystery to me. I don't know. And this was originally done in from Pittsburgh, because it's got his address in there. He's got in the beginning, he's got a page, or a paragraph actually, written of thanks and appreciation to people who lended a hand. Maybe that's where he got the higher production quality. Maybe it's himself. Maybe he knows about that. I don't know. And one of the strongest aspects in this book is the color printing, the coloring and the printing. Not so much the skill of the coloring itself, but that they used the same kind of type of printing techniques that were seldom seen in mainstream comics, except for Valiant, who used the same printing with the same kind of watercolor techniques and printing. And that is a plus in my book, even though the coloring skill, and especially the mixing of colors, sometimes is downright atrocious. But I like the attempt there. And overall, aside from weakness in story and storytelling, but artistically, the weakest point I see is in the inking. It could really have used some beefing up on and better use of inking technique throughout the art. Some places overall the art looks pretty good, and other places it really falls down. And that's draftsmanship as well as inking. But yet other places the draftsmanship is really strong. But I just got to tell you that the storytelling is really crap. Here you don't know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what's going on. It's just all one extended scene, one big extended fight scene with a couple of flashbacks which tell you very little. It's set sometime in the future. In context, I think from some of the stuff I saw in the background, I think it's supposed to be set in the 2030s. It's science fiction / superhero stuff, but the whole superhero stuff, if that's what it's supposed to be, doesn't show up until right at the very end. And it's a very poor attempt as a first outing to try to hook readers. I could not find anything regarding any other, even though that it has an ad at the end for the next issue. I can't find anything regarding a second issue. If it's out there, it's beyond me. I couldn't find it on the internet. And so if you know about more of this stuff, about more of this creator and this publisher, please let me know in the comments, because I would like to know, because this is all that I could find. And here, let's take a little look inside now. Okay, I'm not really even going to try to attempt to run you through the story, because there really isn't any. It's just an extended fight scene that tells you nothing as far as story is concerned. It starts off here, has some interesting stuff and then some weak stuff, like this here, the weapons. But you really don't know anything about the setting, the location, anything until well into it. It's just inside a building. This has a little bit of impact, visual impact with the color like this, the darkness, but the inking really falls down, and here the coloring does as well. But as I said, I like the attempt at this. Now, amazingly, I find this creature, whatever because these are all some kind of cyborgs, the main combatants, aside from the human cannon fodder here at the beginning. But this creature here bears a striking resemblance to one of the major monsters fought in by the heroes in the second Resident Evil movie of well over a decade later. And you see that in the context of this so-called story. It's very thin, but it has some points of nice draftsmanship, especially with the when they do have the backgrounds, in perspective. That's some nice stuff and some nice details, like in some of the buildings, really pop up, and other times it doesn't. Like here, you can't tell really much of what's going on other than some shooting going on. You don't see where what is in relation to each other, etc. Very generic looking automatic weapons. And stuff, but at other times it picks up. The overall draftsmanship is of the figures and stuff is probably about the quality of what we were seeing in most of the Image books about this time, and I think that was a big influence. But the attempt at the coloring was better, even though it could have been done better. I do applaud him for doing this technique, because I like the hand colored stuff like this, like Valiant was doing at this time, which was sometimes a lot better than the bigger companies were doing, even though it falls down here as well as in the inking. But there are also points here when the storytelling, I'll get to that later when I get to it, but here, like here, some of the on this panel, the coloring is not so bad. Could have used a little bit of a punch up, but then you see the really horrendous stuff in the faces and like here. But then you get over to this one, and the with the perspective, the cityscape, and the design of these futuristic aircraft is actually pretty nice. One of the aspects of with what the guys at Power Comics channel refer to as Power Comics is the poorer quality of in perspective, some really off perspective, and this is some pretty nice perspective, and this is a very great attempt with 3-point perspective in this cityscape. It is really strong. It's probably better than some that I have seen by some of the professionals out there. So this guy, he knew his stuff pretty much there, even though it is still off. It's not immediately noticeable that it's off, but it's pretty good. And all the detail. He must have spent hours in all the detail on this cityscape. And then back to the to the fighting in some of the places here. Here you go. This is like right out of Image. Can barely tell what's going on. It's got supposed to have visual impact. Then you have some other places like through here, in which, even though it's it's awkward, the visual storytelling, panel to panel storytelling, is much stronger than what I see in most of the Image comics of this time. And the inking, the line work is a little, falls down a little bit here in the main things. But then you get the design work of these vehicles, which is kind of nice. And you see the background here is pretty strong. Pretty strong for the kinds of detail. And again, some nice perspective. And then this is the part here where probably kind of crowded by too many panels, all the talking heads, and it's where it just really falls down. It looks and the artwork looks almost like it was phoned in. It was like rushed. There are parts that are like that. And then here again, then you get some decent detail work. And we have here, and some extreme violence, but it's kind of understandable. Some of this stuff is just. Then here, I gather these are supposed to be the main characters, Battle Axis, the superheroes who punch in there, and they're apparently are all cyborgs of some kind. That's the impression that I get. And this, where this figure and everything, it just really falls down. All this stuff here just really falls down. It's like it was rushed. I don't know. Yeah, that's really bad there. And then here, where the style kind of changes in this flashback sequence, and it makes me think a lot of the of Terminator stuff in this flashback, and some of the European art that you would see in heavy metal at the time. And if anything, the coloring is a little stronger here, probably largely due to because of the monochrome, basically the single colors used in these panels in various shades in these particular panels. And then we get back here to some lower early image type stuff, and tied up here again, a really horrendous work on the flesh tones and the like. And that is the end of this chapter. I'm not even trying. There's no other. I'm not even trying to discuss the story, because there really is not any story, at least at this point, and it's not strong enough for a hook to make you want to buy more, to come back. But here it has the fanverse, and he's openly soliciting for artwork, samples from people who might like to. So he apparently had bigger plans with expanding outward with the publications. But as far as I can see, this is the only issue that was ever published, that I know of. If you know otherwise, let me know, please. With this thing here, and it shows he's already from Pittsburgh. This is probably a friend of his. He has displays a couple of sample pages in which the artwork and these two sample pages, especially the inking, is far superior to the artwork in the main body of the story. And then here is where you get the ad for the next issue. And so that's all I've got to talk about here for Battle Axis from Intrepid. So please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you know more about this creator, this title, and this publisher, anything like that, please let me know, because I couldn't find anything on it, and I would surely like to know if this guy went on elsewhere, or what else he did. So that's that. Thank you for joining me, and remember, comics are art.